All right, good news, everyone. It's McCronkTimber Gamer here with another updated video on how to modify Valheim, and if at the end we'll show you how to modify a dedicated server. All right, so let's get to it. First off, you need to go to your Steam, right-click on Valheim in your library, go down to Properties, and first thing we need to have is you probably won't have this in here. You need it under General, under Selected Launch Options. Make sure to hit minus or dash console. And this will make it so you can hit F5 to bring up the console in the game later. And what you need to do to make sure you know where to deal with files to mod, you need to go to Installed Files. Go to Browse. On here, where its installation is going to be showing you where the game is residing. And for mine, it's under Program Files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common. The vanilla place, but you may have it in a different location. But if you go in through here, it'll bring you to your the games. Here is the game that we are playing in here, and I want to make a copy of this, so I can right click, copy, and anywhere in the blank area, not on this. See, this is highlighted. You want it to be over here in the blank area. Right click and paste. This will duplicate the program of Valheim, and see, it'll make it a copy. So what I'm gonna do here is take this and now call it modded. Now, if you start Valheim with Steam or any desktop, it will refer to this one that Steam knows about. It doesn't know about this one. So if you want to start this up, what you're gonna have to do, come in here, right click on Valheim exe. Or if you don't have these visible, make sure in the type it says application. So right click, send to, you might have to click more options, but send to desktop, create shortcut. All right, so now that will be there for when we're done. So now this is the modded version of Valheim I want to mess with. I want to leave my vanilla alone. So I can play either vanilla or modded. And so in here, we need to add the mod files. The first thing we need to add in is we need to put in the BepInEx Pack for Valheim at thunderstore.io/c/Valheim. Or you can just search Thunderstore Valheim, and it'll bring you here to this webpage, Thunderstore. And to load in any mods, you need to have the BepInEx Valheim. So you need to click on here. And the current version is recently updated. It's been a while, but it's been updated. So version 5.4.2333 is a version at the current time of recording. And it should remain that way for a while, because they didn't have an update for the past 2 years. So go ahead and click manual download. And I'm going to go to my desktop and go into Valheim modding. Is where I'm going to be doing stuff. I'm going to download it. BepInEx Pack into there. All right, so we're gonna download the Warfare, and it says Denison's BepInEx Pack Valheim is required. Sometimes some of his other stuff, like his armory and wizard stuff, is dependent on this mod. So it'll tell you that. If you go into armory, see, it needs the Warfare mod, and it'll give you a link to it to make sure you're there. We're gonna put it in the mods folder. All right, and I'm going to show you a mod that does not have to be on the server. It can be on the person themselves if they want to. And let's go to PlantEverthing. Let's go here to PlantEverthing. Doesn't have any dependencies except for the BepInEx Pack. We'll download this. All right, another one I recommend to get is the Azus UnOfficial ConfigManager. This makes it so you can hit F1 in the game. You don't have to edit config files to edit the mods to your liking. You just install the mod with this in there also. This is its own mod. You install this mod, and any other mod that has configurations, you can hit F1, which we'll show later, and it will bring up the settings you can change for that specific mod. So again, this just needs BepInEx, so we'll manual download into the mods folder. So now we have 3 mods we can install. All right, now that we're back into the Valheim modded folder that we want to modify this one, we're in the root folder. What we want to do is copy in the BepInEx. And so over where we downloaded the BepInEx Pack, you don't have to extract a zip file. You can double click into it, and then here's some stuff. But we're interested in BepInExPack Valheim right here. And this stuff, all of this right here, you want to highlight it and drag it into the other window, which writes it into the modded folder. So now your folder system, your game folder should look just like this. What you need to do is start the game once, and then what you need to do is start the game once to load in all the configuration files for BepInEx for it to be loaded into the game every time you load the game afterwards. And it will bring up this little console, which is fine. This can stay in the background. This just is what it's loading into the game. And if you do it properly, you can see you're playing a modified version of Valheim. And then once that is done and verify that you have a modded version of Valheim, you can go ahead and quit the game. All right, so this is now what the folder structure looks like in your modified game. And if you're just doing one, then this will be just your Valheim. But I'm running 2 copies, one for vanilla and one for modded. So, and here, BepInEx at the top. This is where we're gonna load in all the mods, specifically the plugins folder. Double click in there. This will be empty. So now go back to where we downloaded our mods. We want to add in the unofficial configuration manager first. So once you, okay, so this is the zip file that we're looking at that we downloaded. Double click into it. Don't need to extract it. Double click into BepInEx. Double click into the plugins, because what this is basically just this folder that he zipped up. But you can go in here, make sure you're in the plugins folder where you're going to put the stuff, and then just copy all this into the plugins folder. And we can, while we're here, we can add in another mod. Since BepInEx is loaded, we can add more than one at a time. Or you can, if you want to, start the program up, Valheim, and then do one at a time. But you go into, again, mods, advise PlantEverthing zip that they got us. Double click in there, and here, all you're gonna be, okay, this is different. What you're looking for is the DLL file, or the application extension. Make sure if you need to, you can go right here, view, right click, and then details. Or oops, right here, properties. And see, this will show you that it is a DLL file. So if that's not showing you right there, we can make sure, right click, properties, DLL. All right, it's good, that's what you want. Left click, drag into the plugins folder. All right, we'll do it one more time with the other mod. This is the Therzie's Warfare. Double click in the zip file. It gives you the DLL file right here, and you can click and drag that in. One thing you might see in some mods is a config file folder here, and this may be needed if you want translations to different languages. And this will come in here and it'll show you what it's got. It's got Chinese, French, German. If you need it translated into any of those, you can, again, come in here. There's Use Warfare. And then what you do is you just left click and drag the config folder into the plugins folder. So then you'd be, here's your game folder. There's the BepInEx folder. You go into plugins. Here's where your mods are. And these are the mod specific stuff that they may need. Next, once we start up, there will be some stuff in the configs, which we'll deal with in a minute. Or if you have the mod unofficial configuration manager, you will not need to deal with that. So what we're going to do is go back to the modded folder, start the game. And again, it'll load this up and it'll show you it's loading in all the localizations, probably from that config folder. And here we are. Game's loading up. All right, go ahead and grab a cup of coffee and enjoy what you've done so far. You should be proud of yourself. This is my character with the fully modded stuff, so we're gonna have to not deal with that guy. Let's do a new one. Done. Start. Let's create a new world. Mod. Testing. And done. Start. Now it's going to take a minute to load the world and create it. And with everything, it'll take a second. So I'll be right back. All right, now that we're loaded in, we can see if we have the mods loaded by hitting F1. And that will bring up our, hit escape. That'll pause the game in the background. This F1 will bring up our configuration manager. And over here are our plugins that we have installed. And so you can go into the configuration manager. You don't really want to edit this one, but we installed PlantEverthing and the warfare mods. So you can go in here and change any settings you'd like enable the debris, debug messages, kind of stupid there. Don't need that stuff. To general. Let's go to the berries. You want to change the settings for planting a blueberry. It costs 5 blueberries to plant a little blueberry bush, and it takes 300 seconds to respawn the blueberries, and 1 return. Oh, it'll give you when you harvest, it'll give you 1. You can change any of these you want to in the settings without going to the settings folder and editing files. All right, and then if you hit F5, I'm gonna have to show you a different way of doing this because this is a second copy of Valheim. This is not running through Steam. So quit. All right, what you're gonna have to do is right click on the Valheim executable and send it to desktop if you haven't already. And back at the desktop, what we're gonna do is the shortcut, right click on it, go down to properties, and here in the target, at the very end, hit a space and hit minus or dash console and hit apply and OK. And then you're done. Now open up the game and we can check it from here to use F5. And now that we're in, we can hit the F5 and it brings up the console. And for me, being an admin in the local game, or if you're in a dedicated server and you are the admin, you can do dev commands. And it says dev commands true. And to test the mod that we're doing, let's go spawn. Bastard, flint, black metal, sure. That's in the armory mod that we added in. And now we can test that we have indeed installed the client side mod that adds in new assets. All right, now if you want to modify a dedicated server, I can help you with that as well. I have gone and made a dedicated server on my server computer that's fresh and clean. This is just exactly the same as you do a local install. So what we're going to do is come into BepinEx Pack, upload that into the server. All right, now that we're over here on the server folder, this is the BepinEx Pack. I just sent over the whole zip file. So we can just go over here, and what we're going to do here, it says right click, copy, and then you're going to go back to the server. This is what it looks like normally. And then remember, right click and paste in the BepInEx folder. Now we can delete the BepInEx Pack zip file that we put in here, and this should just be modded folder. Now you have to start up the server just like you do a normal game before you can install any of the mods, and I'll be right back. All right, looks like the server is now done loading, and it's added some files and folders here. As you can see, the list is bigger. And once it's done starting up and generating this world, unless you have already working with an existing world, which I'd make sure you back up the world before you do this, we can restart the server now. Or we can stop the server now. All right, so now it's refreshed. This should look just like it does on your local machine. So you go into BepInEx, go into plugins, and one thing you can do to make sure that everything is good is you can copy all the mods in your folder into the server you want to make sure everything works. You've loaded it on your game, make sure it works. You can then load it to the server. So let me navigate there. All right, so now that I'm into my modded folder, right where the game was loaded, and we installed all the mods previously. We go into BepInEx, go into plugins. One thing you can do is you can just copy everything here into the server. But one thing you don't have to put on is PlantEverthing. I'm going to remove that. Delete that. Why, you may ask? Because if that mod is on the server, it's going to make sure everyone that connects to the server has to have that version of that mod. And you want to do that with stuff like Warfare, where it adds in assets to the game. Although PlantEverthing, all it does is it lets you plant everything in the game. So it's not needed to be on the server unless you want to force everyone to have it. That can be a client-side one. So if you want to have it just for a person to have their own choice of where they have it loaded or not, then don't put it on the server. Anything you want to make sure everything that connects to the server has, make sure it's in here. Like I'm gonna remove this as well. Remove that and remove that. So on the server, only thing I have is the Warfare. So whenever anybody jumps onto the server, then they have to have that version of the Warfare or whatever similar mod you have installed onto the server. Next, you have to start the server again. We'll be right back. All right, the server is starting up. We should have in here the configuration. Okay, there. It's already loaded in the Warfare. One thing you have to do if you want to modify the settings on the server, if you want to change any of the settings per the mod, you're going to have to download this configuration file, edit it, and then upload it. It's just a text file, and you just need any old text editor, although I recommend NotePad++, and then you can open these. All right, so I'm going to show you how to modify a configuration file if you don't have the configuration manager. For instance, if you're going to modify the settings on a dedicated server, what you're going to do is download the configuration file from the server that you want to modify. For instance, I'm going to use Therzie's Warfare, and I use NotePad++. It's just like Notepad, but it gives you color codings so you can see stuff easier. See, this is that's the setting we can change on or off. And these are comments that are greened out. So if you want to lock the configuration, it'll tell you a little bit about what this does. It'll tell you the unacceptable values, like the Abyssal Bastard Sword. Where do you want it to be crafted at? Well, you can put it, you can't craft it, which turns it off basically. You can craft it in your pocket if you want to, or the workbench, or you can craft it in the cauldron. They have it set to the forge, which makes sense. But if you want to change it, these are all the options you can use to choose from. But you can go through all these ones and see what you want to change. And if you want to change it, say I want to change custom crafting station. I don't know what that means. Let's go down to one I might recognize. Quality. So the basic, it makes level 1. You can change it to it makes level 2s. Abyssal Claymore. So the Claymore, I want people to be able to craft this in their inventory. So I can change that. You want to come up here and hit save. And now this is the copy that you got from the dedicated server. What you're going to want to do is go back to your online or dedicated, your dedicated server. If it's in your room, however you connect to your dedicated server. I recommend FTP. And see, I'm just remoted into my computer. And let's see. I'm going to go to BepInEx, config, and then you're going to want to upload that folder, that file that you just modified, which I did was here. It was that one. You want to upload it, and then it says, oh, it already exists. Do you want to overwrite it? Yes. And then you'll have just uploaded the configuration file. If your server's running, you'll have to reboot it or stop it and start it for that to take effect. But then you'll have now modified the mods for your server. And you can add any amount of mods you want to. Make sure they're compatible with each other. They don't do the same things or somewhat different. So make sure they work. It's best to check on your local computer first, a local game, and make sure everything works fine. And then if it does, then upload them to your server's plugins folder. If you need to change any of the settings, start it with the mods. So it generates the configuration files. Then you can change them and then reboot the server and you're good to go. I hope everyone enjoyed and learned some stuff from Chronic Gamer. This is how to modify Valheim. Make a double copy of yourself if you want to. If you want to have 2 copies of Valheim, this is the vanilla one. This is connected to. If you hit play, it'll reach in here to this here and play that one. And you can do that. You can modify this if you want to. I chose to have 2 different copies with this one. And if you ever want to update this game, if Steam updates, it won't update this version of your Valheim. one thing I like to do is come in here. Oops, I like to go here and rename it OG, original game. Now Steam doesn't know about this. It's like, I don't know of anything, but come here, copy that. So in case you did send a link to the desktop, it needs to stay the same name to know where to go to. Just name that Valheim. You can come in here, right click, properties, installed files, and view integrity of files. And if there's anything that needs to be updated, it'll go and update the game. And it's like, oh, everything's fine. So then what we want to do, since this has been updated, you want to click on it again, and I just control copied, control C, and then hit control V to copy that back in there. And so so any links on the desktop will know exactly where to go. Otherwise, they will be broken. Now back to this one, you can go here and remove the OG at the end, so it just says Valheim. Now that'll be connected back here. And again, if you want to, you can always go in here, properties, installed files, make sure it's up to date. But it will leave BepInEx alone. If you do modify this version, it won't mess with any of the BepInEx stuff, which is nice to have. So, but if you do want to run two different versions and you have the hard drive space for it, I definitely recommend making 2 copies or more. Or if you have like 3 different copies, like 7 Days to Die, this is how I have, how many different versions of the game I play. I have how many different versions of 7 Days to Die installed. You can do the same thing with Valheim. You can install it as many times as you want. Only one that Steam will know about, though, is the one that is named just like this. Valheim, no spaces, capital at the front. That's it. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you give me a like and subscribe. I'd like to help you out, and it helps me out with a free little like that you guys do. And I enjoy hanging out with every one of you. Have a great day. Enjoy the modded game, and on to catch a side flip.